Hey guys, it's me, Alexander Williamson here. We are at the entrance to a park in Seattle. I look crazy, hold on. We're at the entrance to a park in Seattle, and this is called Green Lake Park, Woodland Park. And we're gonna go for a little nature walk and chat. If you want to, if you're on the level where you'd like to play a drinking game, every time we find a new species, take a drink. I'll be doing it with Dr. Pepper. And every time we find a hypodermic needle in the woods, you can also take a drink. Maybe take two. No, actually that might kill you. So one of the one of the problems with urban hunting fungi is is finding all sorts of weird junk in the woods. Now, Seattle is an interesting place if you're not used to it. There are lots of great habitats for fungi, and it just rained. We're very early in the season for fungi, but the other thing that's going on here, and I'll try to be respectful of them, but they'll be on film, is that there are a lot of people living in the park right now. There's a lot of people living on our streets in Seattle in general, but there's a lot of tents in the park right now. And if we go off the path, there's a good chance we're going to run into some people. So if you hear me put the camera down or whatever, it's just that I'm chatting. I always bring my naloxone. So here's my little PSA that has nothing to do with fish or anything. But I bring the antidote to opiate overdoses, which I've had to use 4 times out on walks in this city. So yeah, yes, all mushrooms are edible once. That is true. But we'll be looking for edibles. We'll be looking for psychedelics. We'll be looking for deadlies. And I'll be showing you stuff along the way, letting you know their Latin names. We have more species here than in the tropical rainforest, which is cool. So let's just get going. You'll see my walk into the park here. All right, so we've got our picnic shelters. Our actual, this is where our fish club meets for summer picnics, where all these folks are hanging out at the shelter currently. But what we're going to be looking for mostly are harder flesh mushrooms like chanterelles. And then we'll also be looking for, because the city mulches so much, we're going to be looking for shaggy manes, and we'll also look for some slime molds and things like that. But we're going to be looking for various species that people overlook here. I've found porcinis here. I've found oyster mushrooms. I've found portobellos, which are not even native, and all sorts of stuff. So I know this live stream's a little different. Here you can see someone kicked over some mushrooms right here. And it's a little different format than the norm, but we'll be looking for anything we see. And there's also a lake down here we might walk up to and check out. Yeah, we'll see what we can find. And if you guys have any questions that are fish related or whatever too, feel free to ask. Or if they're nature related, I can try to answer. I'm not claiming to be an expert on all these things, but I guess I'll take credit for being pretty well versed in fungi. So right off the bat here, hold on, let me set my drink down. We have a really cool one. I'm not going to use Latin names all the time, because I don't know the Latin names of a lot of mushrooms that I don't bother eating, but are just cool or pretty. Also, if you go into my Instagram under Alexander J. Williamson, you'll find that I do art with the spores. So I actually take the spores out of the mushroom cap at home, and I use them as a stencil, and it creates an airbrush effect. All right, So we call these little guys parrot mushrooms. And when they first pop up, they're blood red. They're really cool. They are indicative of fresh growth. Usually 6 months to a year, the wood chips have to be here, and they grow on white wood. Yeah, there's a lot of honey mushrooms here as well, and I will let you know if there are magic mushrooms. They are very common in the Northwest. It's a little early for them, but you know, I always like it. Makes me giggle when they're like on the corner next to a police station or something, or next to, there's an insane asylum, a mental health institute that they grow on, very common here. These are Mycena mushrooms. Mycena is a family with, I don't know, 1,000 different mushrooms in it, and you'll see those. They're very common. Here's more of those parrot mushrooms. See how they sprout and then they get bigger, and kind of split their cap when they get even bigger than that. So these grow very frequently. This is the same environment that you would find, well, a lot of fungi. Here we've got turkey tail. This is a great one. It's an antioxidant, full of antioxidants. You can make tea out of this, this turkey tail here, and let's see here, right here. And this is a shelf fungi, so it actually takes the tannins out of logs and the cellulose and digests that. So it helps break down stuff in the forest. This is very young turkey tail. It's hard to tell the difference between this and some of the other polypore mushrooms that are shelf fungi. But yeah, if I were inclined, I have a bunch at home. It's very similar to chaga or reishi mushrooms, if you've read about that or heard about that. So yes. Now I have, oh, never mind. I thought I saw oyster mushrooms, but they're not. They are they're just growing right here, and I don't know what these are. And you know, I'll have to just tell you the truth. Like, I don't know. Those are white mushrooms. I don't know what to say about some of them. But the little parrot mushrooms, once you start to adjust your eyes, they're like everywhere in here. And so in general, fungi colonize an area, and they have a mycorrhizal structure, which we like a root system, and it takes over an area. And so it's the white stringy stuff you see in soil frequently. So you can see here too that there's another parrot mushroom that's bigger. And these guys, you're unlikely to find a ton of diversity in a patch of these mushrooms. So like over here, you might find, say, like a stray honey mushroom over here. We're in a weird phase because we have had some rains, and then it dried, and then it rained again. So some of the mushrooms look a little dried out. But for the most part, we have some interesting mushrooms going on here. Here we've got some lichen, as well as some more, I guess what you'd call mold or rot type fungi. Yeah, so, you know, usually I'd go over this way and be looking for fungi over in the fields for porcinis, but there's a pretty big gathering of folks over there, and I don't particularly need to bug them, I guess. But what's nice right now is we had one windy day, and the rest is, it hasn't been so windy, so we still have quite a bit of ground cover, or no, we don't have ground cover, I should say. We have a lot of ground that's uncovered. Now, here's another interesting one. This is a little coral mushroom. It's a fun one. And this will grow pretty tall, actually. But this takes years to colonize the wood, for sure. Now, if you guys have questions or something you need to tell me in particular, then please hit at the @ and then Secret History Living in Your Aquarium, or Alex. Alex doesn't really highlight me, but it helps me see it a little better. Okay. Already, I mean, you can, there's more mushrooms than you could shake a stick at here, seriously. So here we have some coming up. Now these are called Stropharia ambigui. And when you see if you can eat them, according to the guides, it says question mark always. Now Stropharia, there's a Stropharia cyanescent, or coralescence, that is a beautiful cerulean blue color, which is pretty cool. And these things get big. These get like bigger than a dinner plate, way bigger than my hand. But it looks like something's knocked it over. There's a lot of squirrels here, like a ridiculous amount of squirrels. And so they kick over stuff frequently, and forage. Now, we also have more of these shelf fungi starting to grow, and possibly some slime mold or some actual mildew over here. And this stuff, I wish you could see it live. It's neon orange, like a sherbet orange, and it's just a kind of cool looking fungi. But like I said, here in the Pacific Northwest, we have so many mushrooms, way more than even the Amazon rainforest has species-wise, in our small little part of the state here in the Olympic Peninsula. I just saw, where did they go? Okay, so we have this other one. This one's sometimes called bird's nest fungi or splash cups. And those are the biggest spores you'll ever see with a fungi. Yeah, period. Any of them. And you can actually see the spores are those things right there. So that's actually, I mean, you can see how size-wise, usually spores, which are like the seeds in mushrooms, are very tiny, like less than a millimeter across, you know, 1/10 of a millimeter or something like that. 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, something like that. And those ones are almost 1/2 centimeter or a centimeter in some cases. Now, over here, we have some, what are they called? Hyphricons. I'll probably butcher a lot of Latin today. It's what happens when you go out with mushroom hunters who are all self-taught, with, you know, even some of the best people in the hobby out here are kind of self-taught. But these guys, they'll have a white spore print, and you can kind of see that. So there was one next to it, and the spores were white, and that's one way we help identify why these are different than Stropharia. Over here, we also have some fungi. Now these look very similar to a psychedelic mushroom that a lot of people pick out here, but it's not. So this is Galerina. Galerina autumnalis and Galerina marginatus are the two very deadly, we call them LBMs, little brown mushrooms out here. And these will have a yellow stem or stipe and an annulus or a ring around it. They're very small and young right now, but that's when a lot of times you'll find I'll stop high school kids that I meet out in parks or out on hiking trails, and they've got bags of them. Now over here we got sulfur mushrooms, sulfur mushrooms. So these guys come up bright yellow frequently, and then they get real mushy. These are related to the honey mushroom, and they are really good with malt liquor apparently. So no, don't mix. Actually, that's a side note I can tell you guys, is don't mix even if edible mushrooms. Do not consume alcohol if it's the first time you're eating a certain mushroom, if you've never had it before, and usually try a little piece first. So here we'll have to see what it looks like. I don't know the species. Yes, I do. So this is a wood conch. It's just got mildew on the outside. This Oftentimes you'd call it an artisan conch or an artist conch, like the shell conch or conch. And these are made out of tannins and cellulose. So another interesting fact about fungi is that it is more closely related to humans than plants are. So here, this is a perfect example of a Galerina autumnalis that could kill someone easily. This with the wavy cap looks very similar to one called a cyanescens, a psilocybe cyanescens. And very frequently, you'll see here, it has a cream colored stem, pinkish, and not white. It should have a white stem with bluing if it were magic. This, a cubic centimeter of Galerina autumnalis can kill an adult human. And so it's no joke. Here's a Copernus species, or Copernicus, however you want to say it. These are known as inky caps. This isn't the famous inky cap, but this is one that dissolves over time, and the spores will be dark black. And as it deteriorates, you'll see that happen, and it's kind of cool looking. So this park here used to be a private estate. We're looking, another one we'd be looking for are gold or white chanterelles. The white chanterelles are already out, like they're out and about. You can find them this season. And here's more of that neat polypore mushroom, which means it doesn't have gills. And I'll show you what a gill is, just in case you guys are curious. But some of this is really beautiful. And mushrooms are so diverse in the way they behave. Some actually pull the everything out of, the ground, from lead, mercury, nitrogen, carbon, everything, and they store it. Heavy metals in particular, mushrooms store frequently, a lot of species. So you also have to be careful. You don't want to be at like some old gas station or a creek that had an oil spill or something, because you're going to get that lead. It's going to take so the live part of the mushroom is the mycelium most of the year, the white stringy stuff, and that's underground. And what you're seeing for a month a year is the fruiting body. Now these are Galerina, these are not autumnalis, these are marginalis, and these are the deadliest. They have a nice orange color to them. These ones are real obvious, but sometimes they get that wavy cap, and when they're young, they look similar to the magic mushrooms that people hunt. To me, they don't. I mean, they're bright orange to me, but yeah. So let's see here. This would be one that would fool you. You can see the gills through the cap. The cap is the top, and you can see the gills, which are those lines that radiate there. Yeah, I'm at Green Lake Park. The park, you're not allowed to park in the park with a vehicle, but I parked outside of it. I stopped my truck outside the park, spider web, and then just walked in. You're allowed to walk in the park. They just don't want people parking in the park right now. Gosh dang it, I just got a full-on spider web to the face. Lovely, lovely. All right, you can watch my perplexed face as I hunt for something. I don't know, this is probably the most sea-sickening thing I could have picked to bring you guys along with, is staring at the ground. And in years past, I've edited videos and kind of cut it all together for you guys. But somebody said, let's go on another nature walk, like that one at that over in Walla Walla. That was kind of fun. So I figured, why not? Let's do it again. And I usually do my Saturday live stream, and usually we would discuss, I don't know, fish stuff, right? Or I would have an outline ready with news stories. If you guys are really feeling like, hey, we need to cover some fish stuff, I'm jonesing for some fish stuff. When I get back home in an hour or two, we can always kick that up. Lately, I've been, to be frank with you guys, I've been struggling a little bit with some anxiety and some, well, you guys know I've been sober for 12 years, essentially. I mean, I'll have a sip of champagne at my wedding. But lately, it's with pain and things that I've been dealing with, it's been a little, I've been struggling with cravings a bit. So it's good to stay busy, and so hence me hopping in everyone's live stream and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is an area they're trying to restore. There's all these little meadows out here, and they're really trying to restore natural wetlands style habitat because yeah, and no, you're not supposed to collect fungi without a permit in parks, in state parks. This is a city park. Nobody cares in Seattle what you do. I don't know the legality of it, but literally I've had park rangers be like, oh, there's some great shaggy manes over there, like, help me find mushrooms. So over the years and growing up here, I haven't sweat it, but technically speaking, yeah, it might be illegal, I don't know. But I'll try to be quiet here. We've got some lean-tos here where people are camped out. We've got some tents. So we're just gonna kind of cruise through here. There are a lot of different species down on the ground. Here we have, what is this? Okay, so here we have a meadow mushroom. Sometimes these are called horse mushrooms. It's not the correct name unless it bruises green. But these guys, they smell like licorice. And the underside, they're either pink. When you put the spores on a piece of newspaper, they're a pink color or a white color. If they're green, then they're the actual edible kind. And they're very meaty. You can cook them. Almost all mushrooms you want to cook. I mean, that's not, you don't always have to cook them, but it's always a decent choice to cook them, even if they're a species that doesn't require it. It's very hard for the human body to break down too much fungi material at once. So let's see here. This is an area that would be really prime. We call this duff, the stuff that falls in a forest. Usually it's an old growth, but here years and years of leaves pile up, and this duff forms an area where you can get some really good growth from bigger species. Here we've got more mildew or rot kind of fungi, and everything from the fungi that lives in your aquarium to portobello mushrooms to portacinis to mildew. That's all a fungi. It's not bacteria, it's all a fungi. And here you can see more mildew, it's a mold. So mold and fungi, mold and mushrooms are the same. They're just very different at what they do in the environment, for the environment. Now here is kind of cool because this park, when it was replanted about 100 years ago, a lot of cedar trees got put back in. And this area, a lot of the parks are lacking cedar and fir, Doug fir and cedar. Then they've got all these deciduous trees, or deciduous trees. And it's just cool that they're trying to restore the habitat. That's what these blue flags are about. Every year around this time, actually, they come out and they replant our parks in Seattle. So we're gonna keep going. Yes, we have lots of chanterelles in our area. People don't think to look in the parks. I don't know why. It's a perfectly valid spot to find them. And as long as, like I said, there's no industrial chemicals being spilled, or that have spilled, they're fine. And especially like oyster mushrooms or something like angel wings that grow on a log, they actually they have antimicrobial properties, and they take their nourishment from the wood, and they actually are very free of pathogens. I mean, the Native Americans here would eat the wood-loving mushrooms very frequently. Now, out here in this mossy area, this is another common spot to find smaller mushrooms, but every once in a while you'll see something like a cap of a porcini. And a big porcini we call the prince out here. It has different names, different places. We have hen of the woods, chicken of the woods. Most of the mushrooms you have out east, we have here, and then others. So we're gonna go to a spot that got mulched, because mulch is, you know, the life of, oh wow. So this is an edible, not inedible, it is an edible. So here we have a coral mushroom again. Now, if this developed more, I can't tell if a squirrel has chewed on it. It could be similar to like a lion's mane mushroom. We have several varieties here. And yes, there are bodies of water in this park. We're headed that way. There's a big body of water called Green Lake. I don't grab any non-prime specimens of fungi. Here you can see more of the polypore wood-loving mushrooms. Now, nothing that I know of in my area, this may be different if you're in other parts of the world, is deadly or even, I should say, is not known to be severely harmful or cause diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, poisoning, sweating, you know, all the bad stuff. There's not a single species that grows on wood out here that causes those things. So there are some that will just, you won't be able to digest, basically, and they're as hard as a piece of wood. It'd be like eating wood. Like, how do you think that would go? Basically, not the best. But down this bowl over here is actually where the lake is. Now, the lake is full of people all the time. Here's some more Gallerina marginatus. Margin for the outside margin around the ring around the mushroom, that's that yellowish orange color. This is a spot last year that had more diversity of fungi than I've ever seen in a Seattle park, really. And I wanted to show you, here's a true inky cap, Copernus mushroom, and you can actually see the black spores on it under there, and you can make ink out of that. Now, my coloring book is made out of ink from mushroom spores. So I would collect the spores on paper, let them dry, scrape them off, and then reconstitute them with glycerin or water or a mix of both, and whisk it up to make mushrooms, spore ink. And here, this is mycelium. You see that? All that white stuff. If you've ever wondered what the heck that is when it grows all over, when you kick over the wood chips or the earth, that is the body of mushrooms for most of the year. Now, here we have a couple kinds of mushroom. I can't tell what this is because it's so waterlogged. But it's a polypore, so it's not a real conch mushroom like that one down there or that one. This one here, they call these artist conchs, and it's because, watch this, this will ruin, I guess ruin in air quotes, the mushroom. Hold on, let me find something hard to write with. Okay, all right, so you can write or draw complex images on these, and they'll stay. And since they're made out of the wood tannins, it's just like carving into a tree. So you can actually find dates and names of parties, as well as like literal pictures of the Oregon Trail and stuff. of settlers coming out here. And believe it or not, yes, going way back in time, people still drew phallic symbols all over things as graffiti along the Oregon Trail as well. So here we have some more of the Copernus variety. They open up into a nice little parasol. And here, lots of mycelium. I can actually smell. It smells very similar to healthy filtration floss, and the smell is humus or hummus from the ground. And I'm trying to, let's find something interesting before I bother getting down low again. We've got more tents down there. We've got some kids riding mountain bikes, teenagers, I guess. And here, this area is getting all replanted, so you gotta watch where you're stepping. There's a great channel called Crime Pays but Botany Doesn't. It's a really fun one if you like plants and fungi. The guy's a train engineer, and he works for, I think, Burlington Northern, and or maybe Santa Fe, and he goes all over the country and points out plants and fungi. But he's from like Philly, I think, and he's got like a thick accent, and he swears a lot. If you guys watch any mechanical channels, I don't know what these are. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They're not edible. Almost all yellow mushrooms other than chanterelles in this area they're not edible. They're saying, don't eat me, I'm gonna make you real sick. That yellow color, that ochre yellow-ish couleur. So this hill slope, they've replanted, and not yesterday, 3 days ago, I found fungi here that I thought that it almost tricked me, and I'm on my 18th season here. This looks very similar to a cyanescence right here. You can see part of what we call a veil. That's that white part, and that stretches over the mushroom. And down in here, you can see how stark white that stem is. Well, these are fiber caps when they get older, and these are really waterlogged, but they get that wavy look just like the psychedelic ones that people pick here. Same exact habitat. They need white wood that's at least a year old to grow. Alder, birch. Sometimes they'll grow on pine. I mean, sometimes they'll grow really weird places, but like out of a pine cone. But yeah, so there's a kind of crazy story that was thought to be myth for a long time. More Copernus family, thought to be a myth for a long time, but the University of Washington is definitely and Evergreen State University, I should say, are definitely the preeminent places for mushroom taxonomy and exploration, discovery, however you want to say it. And Paul Stamets, if you look at TED Talks, or if you're into, sustainable ecology, composting, things like cleaning up oil spills with actual fungi, oyster mushrooms, he's an incredible guy. He owns a website called Fungi Perfecti, and he also does home kits to grow your own mushrooms, edible mushrooms. But he didn't have formal training. He was just a hippie who ate squirrels. No, just kidding. Who wanted to learn about mushrooms. He started with psychedelics, and his interest expanded from there. And now he's him and another guy named Paul Stamets are probably considered the preeminent, as well as another guy named Alan. Alan is his last name, but they are the preeminent experts of psychedelic mushrooms, and they happen to be based here. They do a lot of work. Alan Rockefeller is another fellow mycologist. But the thing that was thought to be a rumor, a myth, an urban wise tale, was confirmed at a lecture I went to with Paul Stamets down in Olympia. And that is that the city of Seattle used to go through the parks and they'd pick up all these dead branches, which they used to think of as unsightly. They thought that they were in the way and just bad. Now we know that it's actually part of the forest ecology, and we need to leave these things alone, let fungi and moss and everything overtake it. But they used to just take it and mulch it, and they had all these city mulch trucks, and they'd all converge back to the same spot near University of Washington. By the way, down there is the lake. There's nothing to see at the lake right now. I mean, there's some carp and stuff, but the lighting is terrible, and there's a lot of joggers that just hit the lake. So we might come back there another time when it's a sunny day. But yeah, so what I was gonna say is that all the mulch ended up in the same spot, all the mulch in the city, and they were predominantly mulching just alder and wide leaf coniferous trees. Oh, here's some Strophoria ambigui. I'll finish this story before I get sidetracked. So they mulched all these things, and spores, which I said are seeds to fungi, so all over the city where you see mulch, all over the sides of the road, all over parks, you see these psychedelic mushrooms pretty frequently, especially in late fall, early winter. Well, it turns out that Paul Stamets of UW Paul Stamets, sorry, not of a university, and Stunzi of UW, when they were grad students, put spores of magic mushrooms in the one area where the whole city had a football field of mulch. And all throughout the year, they'd draw from there and they'd spread the mulch all over. And in the late 60s, early 70s, parents started getting upset because it wasn't known that there were non-tropical species of magic mushrooms other than Amanita muscaria, the Mario-looking mushroom, fly agaric. And that mushroom is not psychedelic. It is psychoactive. It makes you, it puts you in a delirium, and it's a hypnotic and a dissociative. I've tried it. I've also tried it filtered through kidneys, which I'll let you imagine. The Sami tribes of Finland and Lapland people, they would watch the reindeer and other deer eat them because they love them. It makes them jump all over and go nuts. Like, they get high off of it and they think it's great. But a human gets sick because of the ibotenic acid that's in there, along with a couple other chemicals. And so it's kind of like a rattlesnake bite. Like, you get intoxicated, you feel sort of drunk and out of it, but if you're eating the mushroom and not eating it after it's been filtered through kidneys and into urine, then it's actually really not a pleasurable thing. It feels like a fever dream. You get sweats and you throw up and you convulse, and some people don't have that effect, but the vast majority of humans do. So the Inuit people as well, in North America, it's less psychoactive than in Russia and in Western Europe. Very northern. It can withstand frost and snow too. And it also comes in yellow, and those are called panther caps, the yellow ones with the white dots. And those, they would have a shaman eat it for years. That he got used to it. God knows what that does to a man's kidney and liver, but they would filter out the harshest toxins, and the ibotenic acid would come through without all the other harmful chemicals, and you would then eat that, or they'd ferment it, the urine. Kind of interesting. Robinski, welcome. Thank you so much for joining the membership. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Um, and yes, the Sami drink reindeer pee. The Inuits don't drink reindeer pee, or caribou, as they like to call it more. I don't know what I'm doing. I look crazy. No, not that anybody cares here. But yeah, so two takeaways from those stories is there are magic mushrooms all over the city of Seattle because some hippies put them in the landscaping mulch center for the whole city back in the 70s and 80s. And spores are seeds, so they just went freaking wild. And they're everywhere. And it's also the most potent gram for gram mushroom. Cyanescence, azarescence, and alani mushrooms. They're all P. They all start with P. Cyanescence, or psilocybe, and they're stronger than what most people are used to eating in like Mexico, in Texas. The stuff that grows on poop, that's what a lot of people think of when they think of magic mushrooms. That's about as third as strong per gram, and that is Cabenzes is what those are known as. Those are a Mexican originally mushroom. They're also found in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, in cow pastures. We also have P. semonita, which is a liberty cap mushroom that grows up here also. You need to eat like 30 to 100 of those to get the same dose as about 5 of. If we find them, I'll show them to you. Obviously, I won't be picking them because that would be a felony. Even though, hold on, I can't do this with one hand. You guys are gonna have to get seasick for a second. Nah. Even though possession of heroin, methamphetamines, and crack are all legal up to 3 grams now in Seattle. They're decriminalized, I should say. It's still felony to have the mushrooms that grow in the parks. So just thought I'd throw that out there. P. Oh yes, P is for Pinellius. You're right. Pinellius for the Liberty Caps. You're right. Pinellius semlamita. I don't know how to say it exactly, but yeah. And they're a skinny one. And there's also a lot of other things. Anything with psilocybe in front of it, PS or P a lot of times, is going to be psychedelic, psychoactive. Now, it may also be poisonous, so don't assume that means, oh, I can take it and have a fun time, because it may be a fun time right up until you get kidney failure 2 weeks later. So here is actually likely a Pinellius species, or a Phoiloida. And these, I don't know if you can see how dense these things are, but they just grow like crazy out of the forest floor here. And it's really hard to tell because they're rotting, like what the heck they were. It'd be hard to do a spore print on them. We've got something interesting going on here too. Oh, it's molding. So this here it's got some sort of white mold on it. And lobster mushrooms are actually a type usually of brevips or rusula. And also here's some more Cypheria ambigui growing up, the big one we saw that gets dinner plate sized. Cypheria ambigua, but the other ones, what was I going to say about those? Oh, lobster mushrooms. They actually turn red, blood red. Here's some honey mushrooms. And they are colonized by a fungi that smells like shellfish. So there are parasitic fungi. Here's a baggie of drugs, some sort of brown powder. If you're playing that drinking game, I'm actually staying away from the spots. Like where we're at right now, off the main paths, it's hard enough to avoid the needles under the leaves and things. So it's really a bummer. Like, I'm very open-minded in the way I feel people can do whatever they want to do if it's not harming other people. But when you leave dirty needles everywhere, it really pisses me off. Weird, huh? So this is an area that we used to call Bunny Hill, or the Rabbit Rocks. Rabbits. And there used to be thousands of rabbits in this area. And They did trap them and rehome them slash let them go into the wild, but they also came back because people kept bringing bunnies from the turn of the century. They some old quarried stone that just never got used. But this whole ridge is real rocky and goes around this outcropping. If you're in Seattle, you might know about this spot. And for 40, 50 years, there were just crazy amounts of rabbits here, and you couldn't even walk without them cutting you off. You still see them here, but not like in the hundreds. It was like freaking Pride Rock from The Lion King, but with instead of all the animals getting together, it was just rabbits. And the other thing that's a kind of a bummer, and we're having this problem. My wife's seen it a couple times now. I don't know how I feel about it because the city kills them anyways. But the Canada geese that poop everywhere at this park, Green Lake, where we're near, we've had problems with people eating those and the rabbits, like catching them and killing them. There's probably a rabbit hole right there. And eating them. If 2020 couldn't feel any more apocalyptic, it's pretty weird to find snare traps for squirrels and rabbits in the park here. A little odd. Here's where I will find sometimes, so here's a rusula mushroom right here. It's all worm eaten, but a nice rusula. Those are edible generally. I don't like them. I think they taste gross. But in theory, they edible. We are very fortunate in this area to have beautiful parks, though. This city values their green spaces. So more fiber caps. There's also a mushroom that looks very similar called a candy cap that has a red dot on it, which we call literally a nipple, and they taste just like candy. We also have some called tooth fungi. We've got jelly tooth fungi here. We call these fairy ring mushrooms. A lot of times they'll grow in a perfect ring in grass. They have lots of different species, so I don't know what they are. They may be a type of Mycena or something. Yeah, I don't know about eating the geese, even if it was like humane and whatnot. I don't know about eating the ones in the city that whatever they live off of is probably gross. I was really hoping that we'd find some Amanita muscaria, because that's the one that everyone thinks of, which is the Mario mushroom. Very common out here. Right in here, last year I led tours about a month later than this time, after this area gets real soaked with rain, and I happened to know that there were psychedelic mushrooms in here right in this area, because everyone always, even if they don't have any intention of eating them, they always want to see them. There's something pretty powerful about the thought that a little thing that grows on the ground can make you completely lose your mind, or find it depending on who you ask. But yes, they were in this area. So they don't always come back every year, but frequently fruiting masses, mycelium, will last for years and years. When I was in high school, I'll have to admit that I would have certain spots. One being the children's hospital, the ginormous spider's web here. One being the children's hospital, I hate to admit. And next to that was a mental health ward. in Seattle known as fir crest, and we would go get them there. It's very common for the local high school kids and college kids to know what they're looking for that. And it's a very common, whereas, you know, you'd have to buy it from someone or whatever. It's very common here for even kind of, I don't know what you'd call them, nerdier kids, outdoor lovers. These look similar to the wavy caps. They're not, though. These are another, maybe they're an ionocybe or something related to a honey mushroom. It looks like the patch is gone this year or hasn't started yet. So I gave you false hope if you were trying to hoping to see magic ones. I mean, we might still find them in a minute here, but also it really takes a lot of refining your eye to see them, because as the fall proceeds, everything turns brown, and a lot of the mushrooms are brown also. It's also spider mating season here, so all the spiders have their big webs out and they're all in their full glory spread out, which is nice. You can find them, you see them, but you're very prone to walking into them face first and not even realizing it, like, oh crap. I was really hoping we'd find some edibles today. Like I said, though, if people are eating the rabbits and the geese here, there's a good chance that a lot of the local underprivileged population, homeless population, whatever you want to call them, transient, may be eating mushrooms as well, because some of them are delicious. Some of them fetch, you know, $30 a pound. And in college, I lived in a town called Bellingham on the Canadian border, and I actually would hunt for all sorts of mushrooms, and there were about 15 species that restaurants generally want and that I would supply them. Now here's more inky caps right here. This is a fresher pile of mulch and less likely to have fungi in it. Cedar and other aromatic woods and hardwoods actually repels fungi naturally. Now, every plant that they've ever discovered, that they've looked into, has a mycorrhizal relationship with fungi in some regard. And even our plants in our fish tank, of course it includes them, they come with fungi on the roots. You may not see it, it may be embedded in the roots of the plants. But the fungi oftentimes will fix nitrogen out of the soil and exchange that for sugars from the plant. It's not the only exchange that happens, but that's the most common one, is sugar for nitrogen. And they trade it, and there are life forms like in Oregon, the honey mushroom is the largest organism by mass in the world, bigger than a blue whale. It's something like 325 is it acres or miles? I think I'll say acres to be safe, but if someone knows, you can say miles. I forget the fact. It's 325 something and it's huge, and they're all connected, these trees, via their root system. Now here we got a ton of honey mushrooms. These are edible. You can eat them. I don't like eating them. I don't think they're great personally. I would rather eat chanterelles, morels, which are a spring mushroom generally, although the last few years we've been finding them here in the fall. So something's wrong with the world if that's happening all of a sudden after forever it not happening. And you can see here we've got some really delicate Mycena mushrooms. They just grow like crazy out of the grass, where the grass and where the wood piles and things end. So let's see here. We'll head over one more little ridge. I'm looking really for the amanitas. That's what I really want to find for you guys. Is the Amanita muscaria. They're really a beautiful mushroom. Wow, there's a lot of tents here now. Wow. Just kind of being quiet. I don't want to startle anybody. Oh, there's also tennis courts out here, so we go. I used to go collect tennis balls as a kid, and you know, either go hand them back to players and ask for a tip, or whatever. So we got another picnic shelter here. We got a dog park down here. Now, don't go looking at a dog park if you do live in a tropical area for any dung-loving mushrooms. And also another side note is that mushrooms that love dung, that live on like cow manure, they're only usually going to live on like bovine or 3-chamber, 4-chamber organisms waste, because they're so ineffective at breaking it down. And because of that, they leave a lot of nutrients. And that is what those mushrooms then can live off of. So you'll never see carnivore poo with any useful mushroom that I know of, like a dog or something like that. It's always going to be a sign that just stick clear of it. More honey mushrooms. They're literally everywhere in Seattle parks. Also, lots of tinfoil. Got some nice fungi growing here. Got a big spider growing here. But yeah, I think we'll still do, if you guys are up for it, we'll probably do an aquarium live stream after this. Probably take me 20 or 30 minutes to get back home. Walk out of here and get back home too. But yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll stop recording here in a minute. And if you guys want that, I mean, if you guys are like, hey, I don't really care. I don't even know what you're doing with the stupid aquarium live, or with the mushroom live stream. If you're like, I don't give a darn about fish today, you've talked enough, then I totally understand that. Okay, I'm gonna turn around. They probably won't want me filming here, so I've gotten chased down for that before, just taking pictures even of nature. Here's more of those parrot mushrooms. They're really cool, so pretty. When you get a nice camera, they just stand out like jewels. There's also green ones, and like I said, the Stropharia curlensis, it's like cerulean blues, are really pretty mushrooms. Now this is the duff where you'd find, you see lots of mushrooms here, but you'd find, yeah, here we go. So the more meaty mushrooms, like here, we've got shaggy manes most likely. I don't have any sprouted yet. We'll look for some sprouting. Shaggy manes are great, they're delicious. You can also eat inky caps, but they're good for all of 1 or 2 days before they mush. But I don't see any. And those are considered parasol mushrooms. And they get picked here frequently because they're real easy to identify. Oh, geez, there is a big old beehive knocked down and all the honey taken out of it. Interesting. This is turning weird, guys. I feel like really somebody has stripped every flippin' resource in this park that you can imagine. Wait, hold on. That's better. That you can imagine has been stripped by somebody. Now, lots of mushrooms over here. I'm just trying to find anything new or of note that you guys would be interested in that I can say something about other than, oh, that's a little brown mushroom. There's also lots of chestnut and acorns and things like that here. All right, yeah, shaggies fade quickly too. Yeah, shaggy mane mushrooms, parasol mushrooms, meadow mushrooms, horse mushrooms, they all fade very quickly. And here, another one that never lasts, I hardly ever find it in the city because other people grab it, is the, what do you call it? Chicken of the woods, hen of the woods, which is a bright neon orange and yellow mushroom that kind of looks like ginger if it were layered like in rows. If that makes sense. It's kind of like a lumpy, bumpy, frumpy type thing. I'm gonna get out of here. I think I'm coming back up to an area where there's like 30 or 40 people camped out, and I don't necessarily want them to think I'm filming them or poking fun at them or anything. So after this last little hillside and patch, oh wait, hold on, rabbit right there. Peter Cottontail. So, interesting thing about the natural rabbits here. We have natural rabbits. We also have rabbits that the Spaniards brought in the 1700s. And, yeah, they let them go all over the place, as well as pigs. The pigs didn't live because there's bear and cougar here. But the rabbits have enough babies that they live just fine. This is kind of cool too. So our zoo for the city hasn't been open forever, but like a what, 9 months. But this bridge will take you there, and it's Art Deco style construction, which is cool. All poured concrete. And then this is Highway 99, which becomes the 101 and runs all the way down from Canada to Mexico. Boy, they've got this whole hillside dug up like a bunker to camp out in. I didn't even see that walking on the path. Any case, so someone tagged this bridge and somebody wrote something rules. Izzy rules. So Izzy rules, guys. Just so you know. Drives me freaking nuts. I love graffiti, don't get me wrong, in the right places. Why would you climb up there and tag that? Come on, people. Why would you tag an old light? That's mine. I'm peeing on it. That's mine. Let's see here. This is one of Kite Hills. We have like 5 in Seattle. The main one's at Gasworks Park or at Magnuson Park. But people come here to fly kites. Frequently, you'll find the Amanita muscara mushrooms just chilling. And looks like they mowed the grass finally. For the longest time, it was all long like this. Nobody was upkeeping the park, really. And I have to say that some of the tent-dwelling members of our society here Actually are sweeping the roads since no cars are in here, but people still bike and rollerblade through here, play with their dogs and all that. They actually have been cleaning it and picking up trash, which is really cool. Heck, if we don't have to pay park rangers and we could just get some conscientious tent dwellers, not livers. Oh, here's something interesting. So, up here, you see all these ferns? It's called licorice ferns. Early settlers would, and obviously the natives told them how to do it. You rip these off and they've got a little tuber at the base. And it's very similar to a nubius, actually. It looks just like a nubius almost. And you can pull that off, break off the stem, and the tuber is full of antioxidants, and it's also tastes exactly like anise or licorice. And it's really tasty. You get some pine needles and some berries if they're still in season, and put that in some boiling water, and it makes a super rich antioxidant tea. You can use those turkey tail mushrooms that I showed you at the beginning of the walk, and put that all together. It makes it taste kind of like miso, and it tastes like a meaty broth. It kind of tastes like either vegetable or a chicken broth, and it's really tasty. So yeah, all right, guys. I'll probably will licorice fern grow underwater? I don't think so. I only see it growing on trees. It is it's a rhizome plant. Maybe it will. I don't know. It needs wood. I know it needs wood to grow. And I mean, it grows way up on trees usually. It needs wood to grow, and I mean, it does grow though on really rotten logs. There's a big beehive in this log right here. Not going there, I'm allergic. Look at the galls on this tree, and that's the word. I'm not just trying to be funny. It's like a cancer that grows on a tree. It's like a hardened wood. Some people pay good money for those things if you cut them up, if you get a cross section of them. They make some pretty sweet furniture. Somebody's got a little putting hole here. It's pretty sweet. I wonder if it's this dude. That would be rad. Just putt golf from your tent. But yeah, usually in parks, my advice, if you live in a city, even like New York, in Central Park, I've found mushrooms to eat when I was visiting friends in New York. You have to know which mushrooms are going to take all the nasty stuff in the earth and concentrate it versus which ones are cleaners. The cool thing about like oyster mushrooms and things is they're going to take the nasty stuff and they're going to concentrate it, and then when they die, they kind of do what would you call it, dechlorinator does, and they surround it in organic compounds and kind of trap it so it's like in a bubble and can't be metabolized. They bond with it, so it's already formed its bond. It's not a free associating chemical as easily, and that is kind of cool in that we now in Seattle, when someone spills oil down at the boat docks, we use hay or straw, and we bundle it, and then we inoculate it with oyster mushroom spores, and you can float that. And even waterlogged, as long as half of it's not waterlogged. Look at the squirrels, they're crazy here. They're so tame. You're able to pull out even jet fuel. It will pull out. They found a specific fungi that lives on jet fuel, which is pretty cool, and breaks it down, which is even more insane. They also just found a species that breaks down styrofoam and polystyrene, which is crazy cool. So hopefully some of that can be used you know, to help the world. There's a video, a TED Talk called, I think it's 7 or 8. Okay, I can't recall the name of these, but they are a little edible button type mushrooms. Spacing on the name. You have to spore print them and make sure they spore print green, which is a rare color. So it's very obvious if it's brown or chocolate colored, rusty colored, then you messed up, sir, ma'am. Yeah, here's more cedar. Gotta love the cedar. Cedar feeder trees. Hey, we didn't find any needles today. That's great. It makes me feel good. I also didn't dig through leaves very much, but so, all right, guys, I'm gonna end it. I don't know, something different. Some of you requested this. If you hate it, I don't know why you're still here this long into it, but just something different. And I'm not turning into a nature walk channel, anything like that. I just thought I'd go for one right now. I think in the future I won't do it live. I'll probably just do edited clips where I can really show you. Oh, there's okay. Where I can really show you interesting stuff and not have to just blab and walk around and make you guys motion sick. But I think I'll launch a live stream. What time is it? Does anybody does anybody really know what time it is? Probably around 5, I'm guessing. I'll probably launch another live stream and see what happens. See if any of you guys want to talk fish, rather than just joining me for my little bit of exercise. My ribs are still messed up, so I can't really work out. Oh man, okay. So this is there's a mushroom I want to show you guys, but there is a dude shooting up right by it. Whatever, I'm gonna go for it. He sees me coming, he's gonna move. Okay. So, these, we've got some to take home. So, since that's illegal in the forest, the shaggy manes, and parasol mushrooms and so forth, and a bag of something, I have to go now, and I won't be picking these, I promise. And I definitely will not be eating them for dinner. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.